gives me great pleasure this morning to introduce Zac Rutledge, and he's going to talk to us about what I always used to call cross-curricular learning, but I found from reading the research that people refer to it as integrated learning these days. But I think the definition is probably the same, but I'm sure Zac will explain. Oh, sorry. Okay, Zac, this is when you need to share your screen.
Okay, I'll do that now. Okay, kia ora everyone. Today I'm going to be presenting to you about the integrated curriculum that we do at Thames High School. So I think we started off by using the term cross-curricular, but really within our school now we would be talking about integrated integrated topics. We really started off about 4 years ago. Our school, our teachers came together and looked at how we could do things differently. And what I thought the easiest thing to do to help you understand where we got to would be to give you a chance to have a look at the program. Now, in the school, in most schools, and including ours up until 2017, when year 9s were, or year 8s were choosing what they would do, for year 9 and year 9's going into year 10, this is what it looked like. 6 lines, and you do maths, English, science, PE, social studies, and then your 6th line is of those choices from the arts, technology and languages, and you might cycle through those. So our program in our school is similar to that, and that it has 6 lines and includes all of those topics, but we have chosen to arrange it in a different way. So I am, if you could grab out, maybe you pre-printed a sheet, or Rachel, if you could throw that link up in the chat screen to the Kete selection form, and I would like to formally welcome you to relive your year 9 year as if you were in 9 RGE for 2020. So if you've got those sheets out, actually I'll just pause at the moment to say I can't see anybody, so I don't know what you look like or what's happening there. All I see is the same screen that you see. If you've got those sheets, I'll show you what our students and what you can choose from. You'll see on the sheet there are 3 coloured lines, Kete 1, Kete 2 and Kete 3, and those are now choices for you that you can choose from this sheet here. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to have a read of the options that you have for term 1. And this is what you get to choose for your classes. You get to choose one of those green subjects, one of those blue, one of those green kete, one of the blue kete, and one of the orange kete. And I'll just give you a minute or two to have a read through those and write down your choices. And Rachel, there's a link. If you could put it into the chat, I've linked to the document that will help you keep making your choices. So what you could do is once you've made your choice for term 1, so you might have chosen OMG, wearable art and create a digital band. While you're doing that, I'd like you to write down just in that little section what subjects the kete that you have chosen are from. So if you did OMG, then you'll write down social studies and maths on your selection form as well.
So sorry, Zac, do you want me to put the link to that subject selection sheet as well in, or just the Kete choice booklet?
If you could put both of those on, the Kite
Okay,
Choice booklet will help people go ahead and continue to do term 2 and term 3
okay.
and term 4. So actually, maybe to help me out a little bit, um, maybe people could unmute and just tell us something that they have selected.
1B, 3A, and 5B.
Okay, so captain's duty, and why don't we use plastic to build a bridge?
No, wearable.
And wearable art, yeah. That was a really cool one. The students sometimes the students will talk about going to, English class or technology fabric class, but in that class they were talking about going to their wearable arts class. And feel free to be chatting at the moment. I've done this with groups of our parents to help them understand what we're doing. And also I did a session very similar with the AMA and at conference last year. So normally I'm in a room with people and you can hear the noise of people chatting about what they're doing.
Sorry, Zac. So those options are currently for year 9 students?
Yes.
And so you don't have composite classes in year 10, students have a different kitty?
We have our learning is set up in exactly the same way. However, for the purposes of this, we are imagining what it would be like for a year 8 student who's about to start year 9. However, our year 9 students who are about to start year 10 would be doing a similar thing, except their kitty would be with year 10 students.
But different background, different subject combination, different topics?
Yes.
Okay. And are we able to access these as a resource?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll switch to term 4 so people can have a look at term 4 as well. Yes, if you went onto our school website, you would see in the junior curriculum what the students have to select from for year 9 and year 10. I would put a little bit of, disclaimers maybe not the right word, spoiler alert, that for the purposes of talking to people about how it works, I have simplified it slightly. And the options that students have, if you went onto our school website, would be different because I haven't upgraded my presentation to match exactly what's happening at Thames High School this year. But I will address that a little bit later as well about why we have made the changes that we have.
But just I find it quite difficult right now to read it all and then flick to the next one, etc. Just for purposes of being able to access the term 1 through to 4 different choices later and read it with pace. You would share these with us somehow?
Yes, I will. So let me just come back to this the screen here then. Okay, so now what I'd like you to do, well actually if I just, let's go back here, because what you might have done if you are playing devil's advocate, and of course we're maths teachers, so you might have thought, well, no one wants to do maths, and you've tried to pick everything that doesn't involve maths, or maybe you've said you're going to be someone that doesn't like PE, so you're going to avoid PE and choose against those things. Unfortunately for you, you can't avoid many subjects, because if you look in the next 2 bands of your Kite selection form, you'll see that there are some core classes. So we have retained some what might be more traditional style classes and subjects, and you'll see that for two terms you will be doing core maths, and then you'll be doing, for the second 2 terms of the year, you'll be doing some core science. And then in that 5th line are some other core subjects. And we've we as teachers have chosen, or as departments have chosen, where we would like our classes to be. But in any case, you know as a student that you are definitely going to meet some mathematics and some science in their more traditional formats as well. But finally, the most exciting one to have a choice of is the high interest projects. And I don't have a link to a booklet because I've just copied straight from our actual 2020 options. And so our school, we have one of the lines is filled with high interest projects, and you get to choose a high interest project each term. So I'll just give you a minute to have a look at those, or a quick look at those options that are there.
One thing that's going through my head is, how do you deal with it if there's a disproportionate amount who choose each kitty?
You don't, yes, that absolutely. Unfortunately, sometimes you don't get your choice, and it depends on the person who's doing the timetabling and how much time and energy they have.
Yeah.
Actually, is how it comes down to whether or not how it is sorted out. But in an ideal situation, you would get most of your first choices.
Okay.
And it's the same here for these these high interest projects. Natural Highs is by far the most popular one for the 3 years that it's been going. And so you only get to take it for one term in your time in the junior school. And you might not get it the first 2 or 3 times you ask for it. We then have these are just some other options that people have for their high interest projects. I picked to show these ones because in one of our in our science department there are a bunch of chickens being raised by students at the moment who are part of that It's All About Chickens project.
Nice.
You also see that this is where lots of our art and music and drama subjects are chosen to be, where they can get students who are really interested and engaged and have the time to put something together.
So this change obviously didn't need any change to numbers of teachers or sizes of departments. You just fitted it into
the way our curriculum works, yeah. Well, into the existing timetable structure. So the way those subjects are put together is based on the teachers who are available in those lines.
So do you co-teach some of those options?
I'll come to that question.
Okay.
I'll come to that question. Yeah, it's a good question about how we go about doing it. So I've got a slide that will start to, or some slides that will start to address that. Yeah. What I thought maybe people might like the opportunity to do, or what we would do if we were in a regular situation, is people just make some comments, so or have some discussion about what they're seeing. And so, Rachel, I wonder if we could go into some breakout rooms just literally for like 3 minutes, where people get a chance to say just what you think a Year 8 student might say when they see this program, what a parent might say when they see the program, and then take your turn, like what are your thoughts as a maths teacher when you see this program?
Okay, everyone should be back, Zac.
Thanks. Welcome back, everyone. I joined a group, and while I was in that group, someone brought up a really good point about when they looked at their topics, they saw that there wasn't necessarily a good spread across the board, even though, and that's the experience of our students as well, is when they look at their spread of subjects, often they haven't tried to avoid something, but they might not end up doing much social studies because of they've been choosing for the things that they really do like. So even if you did, even if that was your situation, or you chose to avoid a particular topic, we instituted, the next year that we did it, a parent, teacher, and student conversations meetings at the beginning of the year, where we discussed and looked at what their spread was, and if a student had no PE or little PE, then we adjusted their options so that they were still choosing the things that they wanted to choose, but also there's a responsibility on the student to make sure they make choices which give them a good spread across the curriculum areas. And so we come together to make sure that that is happening. Our year 8 students, for many of them, for many of them, it's not too different to what they've already been doing in their primary schools. For us, our schools all go to year 7. Although many of them meet maths differently to where they might meet their project learning in other places. Our parents, like almost all of them, say they wish that school was like that when they went to school, but they also want to feel safe that the essential learning that they want to that they expect from a school is still there. And maths teachers, you know, like a huge range of different reactions, including myself, from extremely positive to the other end of the scale, depending on the day sometimes. So what I wanted to address or to look at from there was the way that those units are planned. So as 2 teachers come to we end up in a line. So at this year I'm in line 5, and there are 3 other teachers with me, and between the 4 of us we plan how the year is going to work. And ideally that's before the year has started. So at the end of 2019, our timetabling was finished. There were 4 teachers in our line, and we had we developed the program for our group of kete, and decided who was going to work with who and where. And when I come together, or when we come together as 2 different teachers, this is a big part of our planning, as we look for a big idea that the kete is going to be around. So if at the beginning, while you were waiting, you had a look at the Goodnight Stories, Goodnight Stories is English and mathematics coming together. And initially that's really tricky, but we came up with the idea that maybe we could write a mathematics resource. You know, a mathematics textbook can be pretty dry. So what if we could design a maths resource that would be interesting and informative for people to use? So that was our big idea. And to do that, what mathematics brought, what we brought to it was Pythagoras. And in year 10, they wanted to do some research in creative writing. So we came up with a big idea that we would put that together in a project, and then went and took the 2 learning objectives, the curriculum objectives that we would be looking at together. So we share this with our students now, which kind of shows them really we want them and their whānau to know that you're definitely doing some year 10 mathematics. It's over here applying trig ratios, and you're definitely doing year 10 English. But unlike a traditional setup, you're really lucky to be able to do it inside this interesting and authentic project. Our ultimate goal, certainly mine, is to have true, authentic use of maths within the project. So as we started, we've had to kind of, from a maths perspective, teach other teachers that a project isn't about we'll do this and oh, I know we can do some maths here because we'll be doing some adding or working out the cost of something, or we'll be doing some measuring. But that actually the mathematics drives what is happening rather than being tacked on. So to do that, these are some examples of the kete that we have done. You know, the Build a Puzzle project. The mathematics really supported the building of the puzzle. But what got our kids engaged in the mathematics was they actually needed to use it. When they were doing their measurement, their area, their volume, they were using that to to produce their puzzle. In PE, we weren't just measuring for the sake of measuring, we were measuring using those statistics to inform the way that the class was improving. So the PE curriculum got something from the statistics that we were bringing, and we really got a good solid context to be working in. The same when we were working with English and when we were working with business studies. The maths is not tacked on, it actually really is driving what we're doing. From there, we try and work on a learning journey, how the two different subjects will come together for the students, and with the aim of them throughout the unit knowing where they are. Then we also do a high level overview, which is pretty much what the terms plan will look like. So on here you can see that we have a grid that's 5 by 5, that's 25 lessons in a term. Our school, by the way, our school does 90-minute lessons. So in a kete, myself and the other teacher, we will have 25 lessons with our group, and we may have up to 50 students between the two of us. And this is how we would look on a piece of paper at the beginning of the unit to get a really good idea of what we're going to do. I guess maybe at this time as well, it's a good time. We think about if I'm sharing with another teacher a term's worth of class, then maybe I'm thinking for myself that's about half a term's worth of mathematics. So I'm thinking trigonometry normally I would do if I was just in the maths class, I would do in about 5 weeks. So in a 10-week term, I'd cover my math, the mathematics plus the English content might fill up that kete. This was what we did for the laser cut puzzle making. When I got together with the technology teacher here, I just wanted to use the laser cutter. And this is one of the great things, or the things that I have really enjoyed about integrated learning and cross-curricular planning, is I get to do so much cool stuff that I wouldn't get a chance to do if I was just in the maths classroom. So I really wanted to use the laser cutter. He really wanted to use the laser cutter. So that was this new thing that we got, and we made it work by coming up with a big idea and then attaching to it the learning objectives that would match. And this was our learning journey for that as well. If you're interested in taking a little bit more of a look at what it looks like to plan a unit with another teacher, then there's a link here on NZ Maths. If you, when you're not now, but when you come back to the notes, if you want to take a look at that, then you'll also find when you follow that link that there's a link to 7 units that we have written up for NZ Maths. So if you are looking for what does a complete unit look like, then there are some examples on NZ Maths that you can have a read through, pick up, and if you have the opportunity to use. The next question, does anyone have any questions at the moment actually?
Did you find that when they chose their topics, they were more engaged, and therefore when they did their core maths, in which I presume is more a traditional from what you said, were they more receptive to doing that, given that they've had some choice and they'd learned maths in a different way, and maybe they therefore saw the point of doing, I don't know, that?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. What I found personally when I was teaching in the core maths class, they were much more ready to do maths in a different way and to accept that maths isn't just about copying from the board and then working from a worksheet. So we were actually able to put in a lot more problem solving and even some project work just in a pure maths curriculum area.
Yeah.
However, some of the other teachers are still using that time to really cover content and teaching in a traditional way, and maybe for them it's not really any different to how it would have been.
Yeah.
I ask, do you do team teaching, or are you by yourself? And how many students at a time?
I didn't mention at the start as well, we're a traditional school. We've got small classrooms. We have no modern learning environment. And because of that, when I get together with the teacher, when two teachers come together, they decide on how they're going to work based on the class size and the spaces. So it might be team teaching, it might be individual teaching, and the groups spend 2 weeks with me doing maths. Well, this is how I'm working with Goodnight Stories at the moment. They are spending 3 weeks with me doing some trigonometry. Well, we started together for one lesson, then we split up. They do 3 weeks with me on trigonometry, Pythagoras, 3 weeks learning their writing skills, and then a swap. And then for the last 4 weeks, we're all working together, putting the writing and the problem solving together.
So you do that in a 90-minute period with that class, and then the other 2 90-minute periods, are you teaching other year levels?
So we have there's 50 students between the two of us, and we have divided them into 2 groups of about 25. So Group A and Group B. So for 3 weeks I teach Group A, and my co-teacher teaches Group B, and then we swap. And Group B comes to me and Group A goes to them for 3 weeks.
Linda, was your question about the day? The day, do they have 3 lessons in the day? Is that what you were asking?
I'm just wondering whether Zac, does he just work with those 50 like a primary school all day? Does he have the senior students coming in late? I'm just trying to work it out in my head.
I see them. So as a teacher, my program looks as if like if I was a regular teacher without any units or anything like that, I would still have my 5 classes, and a kete class would be one of those. So Monday period 1, I have my Goodnight Stories class, and I also see them on Thursday period 3, and I see them every second Wednesday. So I see them 5 times in a fortnight. So yeah, no, it's our timetable is set up like that, yeah, so that there's a change of class 3 times a day. So I thought I'd just go over how we plan a year as well. This is what it looks like for us once we come back together as a department after we've done some negotiation. I'm just looking, my link hasn't worked again.
You might try unsharing and then sharing, like if the link's gone to it.
Yeah.
Used to happen to me too.
I don't know, can people see this at the moment? You can see term 1, term 2, term 3, and term 4.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is what we get together. We see where learning objectives are falling and how they fall through the year for our year 9 group, for example. And you can see here, I've highlighted in green 2 places that statistics is falling. And so we know that in this year, we're going to get good coverage with our year 9s of statistics. And we can plan, we can look to see how many students are in both of those classes. And if there's not much overlap, we can essentially repeat the same statistics content and know that our year 9s are going to come through with a good coverage of statistics. It's also really important that in term 4 here, this teacher here doing Mythbusters, knows that someone else has done statistics already in the term, and so they don't necessarily make it exactly the same, so that students don't feel like they are repeating things. And saying there was a warning here about rotation reflection that was covered twice, so we wanted to be careful that we didn't exactly overlap what the students were doing if there were a lot of students taking both kete. And we also, down here in year 10, we got good coverage this year of or that year of trigonometry and Pythagoras, and also statistics in year 10. So we do put it together, and then we take a look in here and say, what are we missing in our kete classes, because that's what we'll put in our core classes. And really, if you have a look at this document, when the links come out, you'll see that there's almost no number and there's no algebra in there. And we just found that the best or the easiest, they were hard to integrate with other people, and they were also very important. So what we did is our core classes consist mainly of number and number skills, number learning and algebra learning, so that we can make sure that our students have the essential mathematical skills to take forward with them through year 10, 11, 12, 13. And also anything that we're definitely missing in our kete classes, we try and fit into there as well.
So you, sorry, Zac, just quick question. You said you have 25 lessons a term, so you see the kete class five 90-minute lessons over a fortnight, and those students then also have one 90-minute session of core maths a week, or how is that timetabled in?
So they will have on their timetable, they have their 6 lines, just like a normal class, like a normal timetable in any other school. So Monday, except it's 3 lessons a day instead of 5. So Monday period 1, they will have core maths. Period 2, they will have core English. Period 3, they'll do a kete class. Then Tuesday, they'll do, so that kete class might be Goodnight Stories. Then Tuesday period 1, they will come in and they will do one of their high interest projects. They'll do another kete class, and I'm not sure what else I'm missing in there. You know, so they still have their 6 slots on the timetable that they cycle through every day. And over the entire term, they will hit their Goodnight Stories class 25 times, 5 times a fortnight.
And do all of your, I'm not too sure if Tim's, are you just a secondary school or are you an area school?
We are just a secondary school, so year 9 to 13.
So all of the teachers teaching year 9s and 10s are subject specialists?
Yes, although not all, and sometimes when we have set up, like I've done it a couple of times where, as a maths teacher, I also teach the content for the other subject area. So when it's maths and technology, you know, we have set it up sometimes where the technology teacher, we just have our group. I have group A, the technology has group B, and we never swap. So I do all of the technology and all of the maths teaching. And the technology teacher, this was for the puzzle kete, he did all the maths teaching and all the technology teaching. And a student who was in either group A or group B got exactly the same content and same learning. So we are all subject teachers, specialists, but we also from time to time teach each other's subjects.
Zac, can I just jump in? I think it's worth noting for people that sometimes it was just about the spaces. You know, so sometimes the spaces didn't work well to have had 2 teachers together, and sometimes it was combinations of things like that. So the guys were really flexible about, like, you know, Zac saying that he taught technology and the technology teacher taught maths. The teachers have been really flexible about stepping outside of maybe their traditional areas to make it work for the students, because actually at the end of the day it's about good outcomes for the kids. And so what Zac is explaining is that it really depends on what you're doing and the spaces you've got available. So it might look this way for one kete, and then in the same line look completely different because of the spaces that are available. And, you know, like when he was working with PE, it's quite different to working with technology, for example.
Thank you. So I just, I'm aware of the time. So what I might do is just go through the final few points, and then if anyone's got questions, then I'm free to hang around for as long and chat for as long as needed. So lots of people would ask, like, does it work? And I would say yes, absolutely, and no, sometimes it doesn't. Some definite successes are, well, in our school, in the English department, most students showed accelerated progress. They really, having those other contexts really worked well for them. In statistics, our students are much better prepared because they have been doing their statistics in real context for their entire junior curriculum. So when they make it to the senior school, it's been really helpful, and they're really ready to be working on their statistics assessments as projects. And to I found it much easier as a statistics teacher to get them out doing physical activity kind of things, and not say, oh, this is not a PE class. You know, they were ready to do that. And for us as a whole school, the engagement is hugely high. It certainly hasn't fixed the engagement, all of the engagement issues that we have had, but our students are much more willing to be engaged. And it's, if you came to our school into junior classes on the last day of term or the last day of the year, you wouldn't see anyone playing videos, movies. You would see students who are really focused on completing their projects in those last few final lessons. I'm actually about to change schools. On Monday I started a new school, but I've had to plan the last 3 weeks of term, and it's actually been a really easy process because my students have done their learning and they're all ready. They will just work on their project right the way through until the end of term, and be engaged in that. We went back and got some feedback from our students at the end of each year, and one of the things that the responses that came back the last time we went to them were, the most common word about the high interest projects was fun. You know, it came up a lot. People, they said those sessions were fun, and mainly it was because they were saying they were working in an area that they were interested in. But also those high interest projects, our teachers get to do whatever they like. So if I'm a maths teacher in the high interest project, I can do, it doesn't have to be mathematics that I'm teaching or mathematics LOs. And so it's really fun and interesting for everyone doing that. For the kete classes, they said it can be hard to know where to be and what you're supposed to be learning. There was a real indication to us that our organisation of those classes needed firming up, and we needed to be explicit with students about what they were learning, hence some learning journeys available to students. And the core classes, they really liked, so to address that question, what is their learning like in the core classes, given that they're also doing kete classes? In the core classes, sometimes they're like, oh, thank goodness, this is so easy. I just have to think about one thing. And even if that's maths, like it's just, it's easier to just be thinking about that one thing. But it's the first time that the word boring crept in, is when they were talking about their core classes. So we think that we have a program that they are more engaged and excited to be a part of overall. What does it mean for us? We have no streaming anymore. It's changed our ideas on what it means to learn and do mathematics. There's no sets of year 11 students who have all been through exactly the same program, and it definitely has reduced the amount of content that we do, but we're we're really happy with the higher engagement that students have in mathematics, and also our MAT classes, like our full Math 101 classes, they are bigger than they used to be, and they have been growing since we have been doing the Kete classes. And you know, there are a few things that we're still working on, and that would be a planning format used beyond what we do just in maths, and some better systems to stop students exploiting the system. Sometimes because they're moving from Kete to Kete every term, there's got a new set of teachers every term, and that sometimes they exploit that to slip through the cracks. So I have some final advice if your school is going this way, and the biggest thing is to be involved. If your department is saying, no, we're not going to go there, we don't want to do it, and we're not going to have anything to do with it, when your school decides that they're doing it anyway, you will be there, but you won't have had a say in the way that it works or the way that it comes together. And in our school, that was the science department, and even 3 years on, they are still struggling to be involved, and that it has really heavily impacted their department and what learning is like in their department. So definitely be involved. I've shown you one model. Go out there and see a bunch of different models if you can. We absolutely failed miserably in our first year, and we maybe because of that we were really successful in a PLD application, and we were lucky enough to get Pip Arnold from Kāri Education, who's been talking to you here as well, and that really changed things, not just for us but for our whole school. We went from a department in the first year that really didn't have it working well to a department which is leading our school in the junior curriculum. You have to be flexible with your planning and with your department, the way that it fits in, and be willing to enjoy it for what it is. It is frustrating sometimes, and can be a little bit worrying in terms of the maths learning that is going on, but it can also be the most interesting and fun teaching and learning that you and your students do. Don't try and make the project too big. Be explicit about the fact that you're doing maths, and there is just a link there if you wanted to look further at what's happening in other schools, to an NZCER document. So thank you very much, and I'll pass it back to Rachel.